Cascadia is 1 to 4 players creating environments for the wildlife of the Pacific Northwest. Flatout Games provided this in exchange for an honest review. It will be, or already is, on Kickstarter. We'll add a link below. This is a prototype, so things may change from the finished version. Land tiles depict 1 or 2 of the 5 land types: mountain, forest, prairie, wetlands, and rivers. They also depict 1, 2, or 3 of the wildlife that live in those habitats: bear, salmon, elk, hawk, and fox. Keystone tiles have a small white triangle at one edge, and I'll explain those soon. The wildlife tokens show 1 of the 5 animal types. The game is played until all the land tiles in the supply are gone, 20 turns each. On a turn, draft 1 of the land tile and wildlife token pairs, then place them into your growing environment. Draw and put out a new tile and token before the next player's turn. Spend a nature token to choose any land tile and wildlife rather than a grouped pair. 3 identical wildlife tokens? You may replace them with new ones from the bag. 4 identical tokens must be replaced. A player may spend a nature token to replace any number of wildlife tokens in play. As long as at least 1 edge touches, you may place the drafted land anywhere in your environment. Land types don't need to match, but you earn points for your largest connected group of each land type. Wildlife tokens don't need to go in your new tile, but must be placed on a tile with the matching wildlife icon. Each tile can only contain a single wildlife. You'll want to place tokens based on the wildlife scoring cards. If you cannot or choose not to place your wildlife token, return it to the bag. When you place an animal on a keystone tile, gain a nature token. Points are scored in multiple ways. First, resolve each of the 5 wildlife scoring cards. Next, earn 1 point per tile for the largest contiguous or touching habitat of each land type. Bonuses are awarded to the players with the largest and second largest habitats of each type. Finally, earn 1 point for each unspent nature token. The highest score wins. Draft tiles and tokens to grow your habitats and fulfill specific wildlife goals. That's Cascadia. Our games of Cascadia, including Setup and Takedown, have been around 60 minutes. There's no reading aside from the fine print on the wildlife scoring cards. Math is simple and mostly during scoring, although you may do mental addition when deciding the best place to stick a tile/token. You'll need to react quickly and maximize turns. At the same time, this isn't Fields of Green. Experienced 8-year-old gamers could try it. Because player areas grow, you'll also need plenty of space. I would recommend a dining table for 3 or more people. Adding players makes this more of a tactical game where you're constantly changing your plans because others took what you needed. Grandma joined us for our 3rd game of Cascadia. I immediately started working on a massive prairie and tossing salmon wherever I could. Dad was nabbing foxes to fill in gaps, Mom was up to her neck in water, and Grandma was focusing on hawks. Dad realized that he made a mistake, and I thought the game was mine. Well, it wasn't. Dad won, but the game was super close. 11 points separated first and fourth. Cascadia has a handful of icons, but those on the wildlife scoring cards aren't always clear. The 1 bear card has a no bear symbol all around it. That means it needs to be completely surrounded by non-bears, right? Nope, it just can't have a bear around it if you want to score the card's points. The 1 fox card has all 5 wildlife around it, then a blank hex. Why not keep things the same across all cards? You could say, well, there is the text on card bottoms. It's so small that you could barely see it while playing, so you have to reach across the table, pick it up, and slow things down. Just use better icons and scrap the text. Bam, instantly improved. Beth Silbazar always amazes me. I love it so much. However, they could shrink the art a bit on the wildlife scoring cards and make readable text if they insist on keeping rules exceptions on the cards. Sometimes animals, hawks for example, can double count when scoring, but elk can't? Wouldn't allowing double counting reward clever and strategic tile placement instead of pure luck based on turn order and how tiles and tokens come out? It seems like you have decisions, but you don't have a whole lot of choice at times. Often, you're simply taking the least bad token so your entire strategy isn't ruined. The way that scoring works means that if certain ones were already grabbed by your opponents, too bad for you. I like that the tiles act as a game timer, although the game takes too long to play for something this light. Herbaceous has the same amount of strategy. possibly more, and takes 20 minutes. You could play 3 games of that in the time it takes 3 people to play Cascadia. Maybe 15 turns per player would work better instead of 20. The different wildlife scoring cards are a nice touch, and I hope that they are tweaked because it helps keep the game fresh. Because what you're doing is so similar game to game, and this isn't a complaint, it's nice to have a different reason for our actions. I wonder about private goal cards that reward players based on habitats instead of the current largest wins system. Forest Ranger. If you had the largest forest, score X amount of points. It would give players a more strategic reason for drafting tiles instead of just piling tiles onto whatever and hope for the best during endgame scoring. Everyone's tableaus look absolutely gorgeous at the end. Great table presence. Cascadia is a light, beautiful tile drafting game that is longer than it should be, has a surprising number of special rules, the rule applies here but not there, and has too much luck for the time it takes to play. I love the theme, but King Domino is another tile drafting game that's shorter and easier to teach, learn, and play. I think it's more fun too. Maybe check that one out instead. With all that said, I really think there's something to this game. I just think the scoring system needs to be tighter and the graphic design on those wildlife cards needs to be better for actual gameplay before it becomes something I'd want to keep playing.